Welcome. Welcome to my studio. I'd like to talk to you about my favourite medium, pastels. And perhaps the first question to be answered is, why choose pastels? There are so many other things that one could use. Well, pastels are a dry medium. You don't have to mix colours. You don't have to wait for colours to dry on your paper or your canvas. The colours won't change while you wait. Mistakes are easy to correct. Altogether, pastels are marvellous fun. A pastel has a side and a top that we can use, a chisel edge. And we're going to start by making lines and marks with the edge of the pastel. Now, depending on the pressure you use, you can make very light, almost indiscernible lines, or heavy, thick lines like this. And if you want to cover areas of the paper, those lines can in fact evolve into cross-hatching, which is time-consuming, but you can build up interesting effects in this way, particularly when you use other colours along with your original colour. And you can carry on building up for quite some considerable time before you fill the tooth of the paper, that is the little indentations in the pastel paper. Other kinds of marks that you can make with the chisel edge are dots, which, of course, depending on how close together they are, will create an area of colour. The more separate they are, the more you see the underlying tone of the paper. And there's an action called feathering, which is just laying little strokes of colour close together, like this. And again, if you adjust your tones and colours, you can build up very interesting textured areas, all using the chisel edge or point of the pastel. I've drawn my rectangle, leaving a border around the edge so that I can test out the colours that I'm going to use, and I select my colours from my big selection and keep them in a separate little palette like this. I've started my painting by using the side of my pastel, blocking in the darker sides of the objects. Now, I carefully illuminated my still life from the left to give me a good contrast of lights and darks so that I could work out the form more easily. And another way to help yourself while you're working broadly in this way, and to keep the thing nice and broad and loose, is to squint at your objects as you work, roughing in the dark sides. I'm using fairly simple one tone with varying colours of that one tone for variety, and working my pastel gently, one layer over the top of another. I'm going to work on this croissant for a bit. It's got such lovely, rich, gingery tones in it. Let's add a little bit more colour in everywhere on this croissant. Still working with the side of my pastel, but short strokes, and then occasionally reverting to the pointed edge. Because I'm working with a fairly light touch, the dark tones still show through the colours that I'm using, this sort of middle tone that I'm using. can redraw slightly as I go, redefine the shape, the rolled up bump, and perhaps a little dark coming back over the top. I'm having to press quite hard with my dark pastel because there's quite a build up on the paper, just to define that side plane, and another one just about here. I think I could perhaps even use something a little darker, slightly darker tone, just to draw and give me some descriptive lines that show me the form. Softening them in a little with my finger so they don't stand out too much from the surrounding areas.